Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Bluedragonfive here.
And Jacob Wile.
And Jacob Gulliver.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we find ourselves in the midst of Disney's big venture into the world of streaming, having started a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever-growing catalog and rule on what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus.
And,
Go on.
And tonight we're discussing Moon Knight wrap-up.
Yes, of course, folks. Unfortunately, this really irritates me, but unfortunately, it's one of those situations where we don't know if we're getting a season 1, 2, or if it's going to be like the rest of them, with the exception of Loki and What If, where it's just going to be the oneer, and then they'll hopefully pop up in movies or what have you going forward. They just keep you in suspense. The point being, we're talking about Moon Knight. We already recapped all the episodes individually, but now knowing what we know from those 6 intensive recaps, we're going back. We're looking at it with with experienced eyes, but we're also getting a fresh perspective by Moon Knight, a big Moon Knight fan that really kind of put man, they should do a Moon Knight show in our heads around these parts. Jacob Gulliver, say hi to the folks, Jacob.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm so delighted to come on and talk about this again. It's really fun.
Now, before we do that, just to kind of keep things fresh, I'm going to warn you folks, we are going to have a little banner here to warn you, but you'll notice we have 2 Jacobs, so we're going to take the opportunity here to kind of talk some multiverse stuff, because it's a multiverse of Jacobs in the room right now. So, Jacob Gulliver, of course, if there's one thing this man has, it's a PhD on the wall that has Ditko hands on it, because the man knows his Doctor Strange, and he was looking very much forward to the Multiverse of Madness. Unfortunately, we were not able to get him on when we did the full-on spoiler cast, but we're going to try to remedy that right now. And guess what? Being a multiverse, he wasn't the only Jacob who's seen the movie since we talked about it. So let's get let's have some spoilerific conversation here, guys. What did you think of the movie?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it for the most part. It definitely has its flaws in terms of there were definitely moments where I wish they kind of focused in on aspects more, did a little bit more detailed storytelling than they were doing. But oh my God, just aesthetic heaven, the whole freaking movie. And just the way they're passing through so many different little elements of the Strange kind of expanded canon. It was basically just like a movie comprised of dozens of Easter eggs for me. So I was just rolling in those Easter eggs pleasantly. And ultimately, at the end of the day, is it the best or most well told Marvel movie? Absolutely not. But I still really enjoyed it. I still had a really great time.
Cool. Jacob Wile.
I am pretty much in the same boat as Gulliver here. I really enjoyed the movie, and I probably didn't notice as many Easter eggs as you did. But I thought it was overall very fun experience, and that's kind of interesting how they leaned into the whole horror aspect in a surprising way.
I mean, Scarlet Witch, of course, very, very big, and Sam Raimi did a really great job with all that.
Yep. Speaking of Loki, the writer of Loki was the guy who wrote this movie. So
yeah. So the Rick and Morty writer,
Michael Waldron. Yeah. He only wrote a couple episodes of that show. So
still, everyone's been kind of pointing to that, and the fact that we literally bury the body of a Doctor Strange, much like we did in Rick and Morty, has been kind of noted.
I don't know if that maybe just a coincidence, but who knows?
Well, the bodies do have to get buried, so Rick and Morty didn't really get a patent on that, so it's possible.
Yeah, but like I said, a lot of surprising twists in the movie. Everybody pretty much saw Wanda being the main villain, as everyone pretty much already saw that coming, so that wasn't really much of a surprise.
I don't think anyone saw Black Bolt killing himself, though. I don't think anyone saw.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw Black Bolt. I think maybe I was one of the few people who watched Inhumans, and I made it partway through episode 2, and I couldn't do it.
You
anymore.
Really? You didn't finish it?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Seriously, he was the best part of that show, though. The Anson Mount. He was really.
Yeah, his performance was fine. It was just
Well, that's clear why they brought him back for this, then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was the only memorable part of the humans. It's okay, let's take him. Everyone likes Black Bolt, but just to hedge our bets, put him in the mask with the tuning fork on it. That'll get everyone on board.
Let's have him implode himself.
Yeah, let's horrify the kids.
See, this is why I like talking with you guys, because both of you guys know what I'm talking about. When I mentioned that they brought back the guy it's about who played Black Bolt 2, literally everyone else I've talked to about this, they're like, "Wait, that was a show? What are you talking about?" I had no idea.
Yeah. Yep. And this is like, and like, let the, you know what'll be fun? Watch someone implode themselves and throw their brains in front of the camera.
Yeah.
PG-13, my foot.
And followed by someone literally getting turned into ribbons.
Or
And
even
then-
more horrifying, let's take an American icon, or in this case an English icon, but let's just focus on the usual catch-all there. Let's see an icon get
Bisected.
sliced in half by her own
Bisect-
shield.
And then someone get crushed by a statue, which is ironically the least gruesome thing.
Yeah, honestly, the least
Yeah.
impressive death out of the bunch would be, you know, it's basically got
Heartbreaking.
I mean,
it worked in
the Illuminati
Phantasm,
go.
though, so who am I to complain?
I mean, it's still brutal, but it's
Yeah.
not a. But I mean, it's still brutal, but not as like, you know, imploding your own brain, getting bisected,
Yeah.
getting turned into ribbons,
Yeah.
and your head exploding.
For the amount of like gore and then like the necromancy element happening, I am surprised that this film was not rated R. But then again, Disney's got the big bucks to make sure that doesn't happen.
And Sam Raimi is rather crafty with the censors, so yeah, it's kind of like
Sure. There was no like, you know, blood effects happening for the most part. It was mostly just kind of wacky deaths.
Just Sam Raimi saying,
Yeah.
"Listen, buddy, I promise you won't see any blood. You won't see any blood at all." Then, of course, like, oh my god, he imploded his head. But did you see any blood?
Actually,
no.
Yeah, there was some blood coming out of his nose.
All right, fine.
And
was it like Scanners? No.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Anywho.
Before we pass on Doctor Strange, I just have to squee about the fact.
Oh yes,
that
I was thinking
in the
about
film.
you during this. Clee, yes, Charlize Theron is Clee.
Yeah, I mean, like, how could they get? I'm just like, I'm so stunned that they got Charlize Theron to do this role.
Do you think it's better casting for her as Clee, or do you think she would have been better as Captain Marvel? I remember back in the day when they were throwing out names for Captain Marvel, I was always like, man, yeah, let's get Charlize Theron to play her.
I feel like Captain Marvel is more like intense, like soldier sort of body language, and I can really see Charlize Theron as much more of like finesse character, because she has a lot of poise and kind of grace. So I think this is really a better choice for her. But I mean, she is a versatile person. I mean, like, for example, if we're looking at Fury Road, she can be direct and intense, but even in that movie, she's still kind of a clever fighter rather than a brutal fighter. And where I see, Captain Marvel is much more of like a bruiser.
You know what excites me about Charlize Theron as Clee?
Yeah.
This is the fact that, like, I've seen Charlize Theron do romance really well, like in stuff like The Long Shot, or like, she popped up on the Orville, like she can do, and Million Ways to Die in the West. She has good charm with the right people. Now, again, we have to see how the charm goes with Benedict Cumberbatch, but, it's, I think the odds are good,
I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch has his own charm.
That's what I'm saying. I think, I could see these two crazy kids getting together, which is kind of the point of like, let's give Doctor Strange a happy, let's give him an answer to like, hey, are you happy?
And if I recall in the comics, like, she actually married him and is the current Sorcerer Supreme.
Well, that's ultimately what I'm saying. Is I would love it to be like ultimately like, hey, he was at Christine's wedding. Maybe Christine's at his wedding, by the next one or something, or in the future. Or
yeah,
I don't know. Be kind of cute.
Yeah.
I just love how Christine's new husband is kind of a Doctor Strange fanboy.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, boy, that's which is mainly why probably one of the main reasons you invite him.
It's like, yeah, my husband's a big fan of yours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, during Doctor Strange's wedding, you'll have like a Minotaur as like an usher or something.
And Wong, of course, is the best man.
Yep, he's got to be. They're dancing to Beyonce. All right.
If they let him pick the playlist,
yeah.
Well, Doctor Strange would have a great
if you liked
playlist.
It, should have put a ring on it. Come on, that's the perfect wedding song.
Because Doctor Strange loves music. If we learned anything from the top of that movie.
Yep. I mean, heck, he even name dropped the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
I mean, which is an actual band.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I think we should probably move on then. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And folks, so let's turn it over to the Gulliver. So Gulliver, what did you think about Moon Knight overall? Like, and now it's all said and done. Like, what's your thesis on it?
Overall, I think I really enjoyed it. I think there are moments that stuck out for me as like a little frustrating, but overall, I would still lean on the positive side. I think they're definitely doing something that feels inspired by the comics and has a strong tie to like the mythology and the feel of the comics, but is also kind of its own thing, which is something we're seeing a lot more of in the MCU projects in recent days, where it's got that vibe, it's got the feel, but they're really kind of, retelling the story in a new adaptation. So I think that they're doing a good job. I think that the acting has been some of the best on screen acting in the non feature film MCU. The performance from Oscar Isaac is truly magnificent. Seeing him switch back and forth on the fly between the different personalities and seeing um, the complex emotions, especially in episode 5, like trying to process that is really interesting. I think that there's definitely some moments where I think it gets a little bit too bogged down in trying to tell a like real story, if that makes sense. Like personally, I'm okay with like whimsy and wonder, and like I'm okay with it being a little bit silly and like just because it's a superhero show. But I know not everybody is, and there's definitely times when it kind of gets stuck in that. I think the worst of that was the extended time spent in the mental hospital, where it's just like we're really gonna break Mark down and we're gonna talk about all these things, and that's fine. But like we kind of already knew to an extent that was what was going on. His performance is excellent, but also what new information was being gotten out of those extended scenes. Um, yeah, I would say it's kind of my overall thoughts. I know you kind of want to go into more specifics with the different episodes. Um, but yeah, I'll let you guys drive for a minute here
All right.
before I just spill for another hour.
Other Jacob, what do you got?
Well, I mean, of course, we'll go into more. I've already given my thoughts on my couple appearances here so far, so I'll try and keep it brief. Since we're going to go over the individual episodes in a moment.
Right.
Like I think this series overall was quite enjoyable. I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, I did like the deeper aspect into some somewhat darker elements of it, and the look into the psyche of Mark Steven, and as of what do you know, another Jake's.
Mm-hmm.
Or Jacob. I don't know if
The
it was my
multiverse is growing.
Yes. Soon we will take over.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't know Spanish, so it might be hard to communicate with him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless he knows how to speak English.
I don't know.
But either way. Either way, like I said, obviously, again, impressive acting chops from Oscar Isaac and all the different personas that he had to portray. I really had quite a feat to portray three characters in such a convincing manner and just like within seconds of each other. And of course, the impeccable F. Murray Abraham as Khonshu. So
Yeah.
and basically everything else that I've said about this show. Like I will agree to some pacing issues that this show had. Like I said, I think the final episode should have been slightly longer. Like maybe given at least like 20 more minutes to have a little bit more breathing room. But other than that, I'd say I'm overall impressed with the show, and it's probably in the top 3 or so, top 3 or so of the Marvel shows so far.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, for me, Moon Knight probably the most solid of the Disney Plus MCU shows. I think collectively. Now, I want to be clear. It doesn't mean it's my favorite. I mean, it's good. I think it's very good, but it's
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's like a pattern with all the shows so far where they really wobble. They kind of wobble a bit in the end. But yeah, again, that's just been the pattern for all of them so far. I mean, again, I even if you like the ending of Hawkeye, I think a lot of people, everyone's splitting hairs over the endings in all these shows. Anyway, slice it. So,
Yeah.
point being, impressively, I think, because I've said this before. Moon Knight, it was an aesthetic thing for me. Like, he always looked cool, but I always wanted to know a little bit more about him. But I never really was able to get. I find Moon Knight hard to kind of get into because of the whole,
Yeah.
the idea and the retcons and everything. It's a little hard to kind of like glom onto a specific one. I mean,
There's not a super easy entry point into the character.
yeah, like
Like
a part of me
that's
is like, let's
it's
go into
tough
the Lemire
to
run.
yeah.
Yeah, hard waters to circumnavigate.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd had to start with his first appearance in Werewolf by Night.
That's what I'm saying. That's what the show wants you to do, and that's what I'm saying. You probably get a grasp on it, and that's it's probably the easiest way of doing it.
Yeah. If you are looking for a good entry into Moon Knight without a ton of like the super extra stuff, I would probably say there's a run called Vengeance of the Moon Knight. So
Yeah.
like late 2000s or maybe early 2010s, which takes place kind of right after Civil War. So yeah, probably late 2000s then, and the Dark Avengers saga. But it's basically just him trying to like get back to basics and do stuff again. So that's kind of a good entry without getting too wild and deep. But
Cool.
Anyway.
So anyway, impressively, I think what we do with this show is that we go back to kind of the phase one kind of era of the MCU, where it's kind of like which has been kind of the mission statement that they've attempted multiple times in phase four so far to varying degrees of success. But again, I think we're applying. I like that we're
Basically, it's like they're trying to combine back to basics with previous storylines.
Yeah, it's like basically what we're doing is we're in kind of a disconnected kind of phase one safe space, but we're applying the universe mainly the universe, not in terms of like references and like connecting things, but more so at this stage of the MCU we can get away with anything we want, which includes Egyptian gods at this point. So why not? Which kind of gave us leeway to like, okay, let's just really swing for it and just be authentic with Moon Knight because we don't have to worry about like science and magic things here. We're good. And yes, I fully concur. Oscar Isaac, seriously, I'm not just trying to blow him up here. It's like Oscar Isaac's. I think he gives an Emmy-worthy performance in this show. He did a really good job.
Yeah.
I mean, just ridiculously good. Also, Ethan Hawke, but particularly Oscar Isaac, just with what he had to do and how convincing he did it. It's just.
And we know Oscar deserves an Emmy.
Yes. There's a campaign for you. So again, I think that there's obviously I'm hoping that I'm hoping that he returns. I'm really hoping that he returns in some form, whether it be a season two or or like the supernatural sect of the MCU, if it were to be a feature appearance, much like how Falcon Winter Soldier doesn't get a season two, but it gets a Captain America 4. So so no telling how he's going to come back, but I'm eager to see him come back in some way, shape, or form. Honestly, this feels like a show about finding balance within yourself despite extraordinary circumstances. So that's kind of the vibe I get with the show, and I fully agree with you, Gulliver, where it's just this sort of it's this to me is a good entry point for Moon Knight. I mean, I was very satisfied with it in terms of I think I learned what I needed to about Moon Knight. I mean, there are obviously some interesting directions to go, particularly with Jake Lockley. I want to know more about this Lockley guy, but it's here's how it lays it out. It's pretty interesting still, and again, it celebrates the aesthetic, but also gives you some substance with the whole the Stephen Grant of it all. Which I'm going to take the assumption a lot of that was added for the. Is any of that from the comics, or is that all for the show? Like the Stephen Grant backstory, you think?
Well, there's a couple different like interpretations of Stephen Grant. One of them is much more like archaeological focused, and one of them is more like kind of a filmmaker artist type character.
The biggest difference is that he's not British.
Right. Yeah. Neither of those are typically indicated as British. Whereas Mark is almost always, a mercenary who got a bunch of money doing bad shit. So, and then kind of had this, coming to a head moment where it's like, hey, I probably can't do this forever. This is not good for my soul. And Jake's always been kind of a rough and tumble uh, rough and tumble guy who really gets stuck in the violence sometimes. Has a lot of like criminal contacts and knows a lot of people who can get stuff done. Very good investigator and informant type character. Um, but yeah, it is different than the comics. I think the thing that I miss the most from the comics is the like technical element, like the kind of Marvel's Batman element
Well, we
of
did
it.
get a little bit of that towards the end with the grappling gun, which I was really
Right.
pleased with.
And
Yep.
as we all know, Dragon's a big gadget geek.
Yep, I got a
Yep.
love affair with the grappling gun. Just any grappling gun. I said,
Oh, for sure.
I do love it.
Yeah. And there's like for example, in Vengeance of the Moon Knight, he has a pair of little like they're like launchers that are filled with the crescent discs that he just has like dual wields like pistols, and he'll
Yeah,
just
a
fire
little
them
like
to pin
Batman
people to the
Beyond.
wall,
Yeah,
or like it's freaking great, man.
Moon Knight
And
Beyond.
the moon copter, I missed the moon copter. I really wish we had gotten that, but
Well, we saw the Thanos copter in Loki, so maybe we'll see it down the line.
maybe.
yeah, but like they kind of put that in as a joke, whereas
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
hope they don't include the moon copter as a joke. I hope they just include it.
yeah, I know.
And I want, yeah,
I was
I
making
would,
a joke
All
myself.
right.
fair enough. I would love to see Bushman and Frenchie, but I don't know if they'll go down that route. We'll see.
I mean, Bushman's kind of a hanging Chad because he just kind of shot him and got away. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyway, okay, real quick, I'm going to Connor Nielsen. He kind of led and kind of put a ranking in there for us. I'm going to read that off, and then we're going to get this puppy started. So, it says my ranking of the Disney Plus shows so far. It says let's just, I'll read it from reverse here. So number 7, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which breaks my heart, but we're just going to move on from there. Number 6. Well, it says reserved for future shows. I think it's kind of a cop out, but so
I think it's basically like he's like ranking Falcon Winter Soldier that lowly.
that's just it's plain mean, Connor.
It
No,
is
no,
mean,
he can have his thoughts.
yeah.
Anyway, so number 5, Loki.
Loki.
Number 4, What If? Go on. Would you like to read them? By all means.
Okay. Then number 3 is Moon Knight. This one. 2, WandaVision, and 1, Hawkeye.
Yeah. Can't beat that enough for you. All right.
I think I'd still. I mean, this might not. I think I'd still personally rank WandaVision as number 1. Personally.
That's what I'm saying. For me, I mean, look, personally, I don't want to get bogged down in rankings. Just real quick, is that for me, I personally have obviously have a lot in, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I mean, personally, it's still probably gonna be number 1 for me, no matter what, unless something really like blows me out of the water. But then again, you have Hawkeye, which brings back the Kingpin, which clearly that's the only one really kind of vies for that spot. And you got WandaVision.
Yeah.
You got those 3, and then obviously Moon Knight complicates things because Moon Knight is kind of a top 3er because it's really that good. So I don't know. It's hard to rank him, but probably still Falcon Winter Soldier's number 1, despite the villain problem that show very clearly has.
I mean, well, except for Walker,
Well, of course, but that one's he kind of becomes an anti. It's a whole thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the villain of that show was lame.
Yeah. Anywho, all right. So let's.
I think one thing this show does really well, Moon Knight, that the other Marvel shows have had a bit of a stumbling issue with, is that this one actually pays off almost everything it sets up without leaving important plot points hanging, or like without feeling like it's pushing too hard into an immediate like another story. Because everything that they kind of start out with, like asking the questions about at the beginning, they basically answer by the end of the series. Whereas like with WandaVision, I mean, it's basically just leading into Multiverse of Madness.
and we still have
With
White Business
Hawkeye, it's
floating around
basically just
somewhere.
saying like, oh, the Kingpin's back, so there is going to be another story with that. We're not going to, tie up that with a bow. It's just that's going to happen later, but you won't get to watch it now. And then like
Loki was relatively self-contained.
I guess, but it's all just. But I feel like again that kind of just is setting up Quantumania with King the Conqueror. where it's like they kind of pay it off, but it really is just it's setting up later stuff.
Well, that's what TMC has been doing the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, in like the post credits stuff, but that's that's a different story to tease something else there rather than to do it in the actual episode itself.
All right. Let's use that the springboard into episode number one. Let's talk the goldfish problem. So episode one always really had me. I thought it was a very strong character cell and very much the heart of the show, which is Stephen Grant. Stephen Grant is a wonderful character. He's this lovely, empathetic kind of underdog you're rooting for. He loves Egyptology, yet he works at the gift shop because no one will give him a chance.
He
We
worked
set up
in the gift shop.
yes, Stephen Grant of the gift shop. Of course, we said speaking to set up and pay off. We set up all of Mark Spector's asylum buddies here, but just as in the day to day, with Donna and I think Crowley, the gold guy, and all the other stuff, and also we get a little reference that Torwetta, who comes back, our little hippo goddess.
Yep, and of course Amit.
Yeah, of course, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, of course, the I love the direction of episode one with the blackouts and everything, and how we shift between the dissociative identity of it all, like mid action scenes. That was the big sell of the first episode for me. Like, oh god, so Stephen Grant is our way in to this, to the Moon Knight story versus the traditional Mark Spector, which is an inspired idea and led to a lot of fun and even more like you're rooting for this character as kind of our Peter Parker, so to speak, kind of our Spider-Man dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, it's almost like the symbiote, but the symbiote is obviously more in his mind. Well, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Like he's throwing guns at people. He's very out of his element, and he's got conscious color commentary insulting him. And it's like, what did I do?
It's like the idiot's in charge.
Exactly. So now, I think on the rewatch, what really makes this stand out even better for me is that now we know the cause of all this. The mother's death has led to like the crossover between the two personalities. That's why he's in control right now. That's why we've been kind of following his story. Ordinarily we wouldn't, but the processing of mother's grief and the denial that comes with that. Yeah.
I guess Steven was a result of him trying to escape his trauma.
Yeah. Exactly, which I find fascinating. Honestly, I think it's my favorite part of the show, but more on that when we get to episode 5. But yeah, so speaking of setup and payoff, and also the big thing we should talk about, because you're speaking of villains a little while ago, Haro, man, Haro is an excellent villain. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean he's the classic like sociopath, sycophant. I mean he's very archetypal in a lot of ways, but the performance is right on for that archetype, I think.
Someone who totally believes in what he's doing.
Yeah, I would compare it to Kevin Bacon's performance in X-Men First Class. It's that same sort of like style where it's like he knows exactly who he is. He's confident. He knows that the things that he's going to say are not palatable to most people, but he's still going to try and convince you of those things. And he's going to move forward, whether it's with or without you.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the signature of every good Marvel villain. He thinks he's absolutely in the right, but what I love about this guy is that he's like the bloody shoes kind of said it all with this character, and that he's all about penance and pain for the violence that he had been involved with. He's like trying to rebalance his own scales, as we ultimately learn, which I think is a really cool idea. And of course, I love the pleasantries. I love like he's got this pleasant demeanor when he's just he has the soft touch approach, which then obviously goes to violence and just horrible stuff. He's Egyptian monsters. He's sicking on people.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Okay, so some other stuff too, like Gus the fish now takes on greater symbolic meaning. Gus the little kind of Nemo'd fish, with the little fin, the one fin, I should say. Symbol for the brother, for Randall, Stephen Grant's brother.
Yep.
Yeah, just I don't know. It's kind of like kind of nice little kind of totem, like looking back on things and how that all worked out. Now it's kind of like the idealized life for Mark Spector, is with Stephen Grant's living it up in his apartment right now. So let's see. It's a big the big thing to talk about before we move on. The big bathroom beatdown is a huge moment. I think what really makes this stand outside the obvious. Of, oh, look at him beat the crap out of that thing in the Moon Knight costume, and we basically. I love how we just keep building to Moon Knight like it's the Incredible Hulk from the '78 Incredible Hulk show, where it's like we gotta build to like the big suit up moment for the most part.
It's like you hear something, you don't know if he's fully given in yet, and then all of a sudden you hear someone's coming close, but it's the jackal trying to escape.
Yeah.
And it's like oh, basically showing that this ain't your average Marvel hero, guys.
Oh no. I don't know. I love the extra weight with Mark Spector saving Stephen Grant in this moment. Where just like given the connection that we learn about them later, you love
Mhm.
the love that Mark has for him that we later learn, especially kind of develops and grows stronger. It's just there's kind of like a I don't know, it's kind of funny when you think about this in contrast to the Loki show because Loki's kind of about narcissism, with that relationship, and this is more about kind of like self, like kind of self, uh,
Well,
not adulation, but kind of like self. I guess self acceptance. I thought there might
yeah.
be a better word, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It's like,
Both have their own glorious purpose.
Self care,
yeah, it's probably.
self actualization.
I think that's what I was looking for. I think I was
Yeah.
looking for something like that. But
Yeah.
yes,
Different kinds of glorious purpose.
exactly. So the point being, it's kind of like a guy, kind of. It's more of like kind of like a need, kind of like a acceptance of yourself versus like it's kind of like, oh man, I'm so in love with myself, which that's what we have with Loki and the whole Sylvie thing. But regardless, I just love that it's it's just they've been bonded together here in this moment of like I'm gonna stick up for the guy who's kind of who's protected me all these years, and I'm gonna help him out here, and reluctantly I'm gonna have to expose him to what I've been trying to hide him from, which is kind of the violence and everything, and all the paths that have led to my life. So again, building up Moon Knight and see him kick the crap out of some Egyptian monsters, pretty darn cool. That brings us to episode 2.
Summon the soup.
So Tiki in the comments, he brought up something. He brought up a point about kind of the. He says, "I honestly think the show might have flowed better as 3 90-minute episodes." Which now here's the thing, I concur in that. I like how what we have is like I view a 3 act structure here with each pairing of 2 episodes, which that's the other thing with the show is that it very much feels like the closest and the most cohesive they've ever achieved their goal of like let's do like a 6 hour movie, more like 4.5 hours, but I won't pick hairs right now. Let's just say a 6 hour movie in in 6 parts.
Don't you mean split hairs?
What did I say?
Pick hairs.
Oh, sorry, I meant split hairs. Yeah.
I guess technically I'm kind of splitting hairs right now.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on.
But yeah, that's the thing. I love that it's I really like that breakdown. I like that it very much feels like you're watching a Marvel movie that's just coming at you on weekly. But I think perhaps maybe if they gave you 2 episodes at a time, it might feel even more cinematic. Now again, it's a little different what Tiki's saying, but I don't know. Again, he's not wrong. We should have more runtime on that. That would be a really cool way to do it, kind of BBC style. 3 90-minute movies. There's your full season. That'd be nice.
I mean, it worked for Sherlock, I guess.
Oh yeah, well, tremendously. No, you don't feel that way, Gulliver. No.
I mean, there's so many points, even in the Sherlock stuff, where it kind of drags. I'm personally appreciative of having it in smaller chunks, but I agree that not every episode stands on its own as strongly as others. I think the first episode is really, really strong on its own. The 5th episode is really, really strong on its own, and extending those into like a movie feels like maybe not the best idea in my mind.
Which is why I'm thinking like just 2 at a time might have been a little like that would have been the sweet spot.
I mean,
Sure.
you obviously get why I'm bringing up Sherlock.
Yeah, because Cumberbatch, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But also BBC runtime, so it's a very relevant point. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Summon Suit again this is where it really hits on that 3 act structure for me, because this is the aftermath of the first part where basically we confirm, okay, all this is really happening. We're putting Stephen Grant through it as he's thinking he's going crazy and everything, which he kind of is. We have the storage locker scene with Khonshu, which I thought was so darn well shot. I mean, just seeing like like him actually interacting with the motion sensor lights, so when he's walking down that hallway, they're turning on. I thought that was such a cool idea.
A lot of the effects in this show don't actually hold up very well, but Khonshu constantly looks great.
Conceptually, the effects are great. Like for example, like how we do some more practical stuff, like all the mirror shots. The mirror shots, like the whole idea of reflections, and that's how they communicate. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
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 I said Khonshu constantly looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we have F. Murray Abraham doing the voice.
I love how we have like this eerie way that we shoot Khonshu, because we kind of keep shifting all over the place, and he kind of disappears. I don't know. It's really interesting how they shot him.
Yep, it gives him the whole air of mystery.
Yeah.
I am interested in what they did with that performance, just in that, like, when I would read Khonshu's dialogue in the comics, I would picture something, a little bit more classically spooky than the performance that F. Murray Abraham gave. But there is something that's also kind of spooky about the way that he's just very straightforward about kind of grim subjects. It's just no, this is what it's going to be. Sorry. You will do this, or that's the end.
I think my favorite example of that would be in actually episode 3, where after the informant cuts the rope and falls to his death, he's like, I was sure he would talk.
Yeah.
I was so sure he'd talk.
Yep, it's like he really doesn't care, does he?
Anywho, let's see. Oh, so Layla, Gulliver, what do you think about Layla?
Layla's really interesting. At the beginning, I thought they had invented a new character, and they kind of have, but like the kind of big reveal at the end was her becoming the avatar of Taweret, and then kind of tying back to this deep cut character, the Scarlet Scarab, I believe.
Yep. Which obviously it's going to be really awkward when she says, "I'm going to call myself the Scarlet Scarab."
Yeah.
Well, there was a Scarlet Witch. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So I'm sure they'll do something with it, but like
I just think they're going to shorten it to the Scarab. Honestly,
it's not like Wanda owns the term Scarlet.
Oh no, kind of though. She kind of does. Like it's a big
deal. She owns the name Scarlet Witch, but not that individual word. I think other people could go by the word, have the name Scarlet in their name.
Well, they could. I just hope that. I wonder if they're going to acknowledge that, though. That's the thing, because in the MCU they kind of acknowledge that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Well, it's possible.
Yeah. We'll probably end up.
And spoilers, upcoming spoilers for Doctor Strange. Considering Wanda's current state or potential current state, that might not even be an issue.
Yeah.
True.
To get back to the
yes, please.
Layla character, it does seem like they really combine sort of two different characters, because the role that she's playing is very similar to the role of Marlene in the comics, Marlene Alron, who's kind of the perpetual love of Mark, who is also the daughter of a famous archaeologist, and whose father's death is the beginning of Mark's ascension to the Fist of Khonshu, becoming Moon Knight. So they kind of combined that aspect of the backstory with, this deep cut character to create something kind of new and original. And I dig that. I also think that like Marlene is a pretty old fashioned name. So like, I'm sure there was some marketing decisions there in the sense of like, it's kind of like having a character named Agnes, this is my girlfriend Doris,
Well, to be fair, Agnes did get a lot of love ultimately.
Sure, yeah. And ultimately, Agnes does have kind of a reason to have more of an old-fashioned name. Like,
true.
Yes, both considering that she kind of is an older character, and the fact that it's 50s, 60s kind of thing.
But what's really sweet though about Layla to me though in the story? I just love that she. By the way, just go. Did she remind you so much of Rachel Weisz? Did you get that?
A little bit.
Yeah, a lot of again. What's the mummy tone of the show? Right? It's like, man, she's a lot like Rachel Weisz. I wonder if that went into the casting at all when they're looking for her.
Sure.
I wonder if she'll ever be in the MCU.
Well, no, she already has been, Jacob.
Wait, she had?
Yeah, Black Widow.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I completely blanked on that. I forgot she was in that movie.
Anyway, so But I love like the wife reveal in episode 2, and I love the whole it's the fact that I'll admit the problem I had, and I still kind of have episode 2 is like, man, why is she so skeptical? She's married to Moon Knight. Why would she be so skeptical
Yeah.
about there being another person? But anyway, just the fact that it gives, I think it's really sweet that she has ultimately her arc is like she kind of falls in love with her husband all over again through Stephen Grant, which is kind of sweet. Thought that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have the big Haro chat this episode. We have like their little walk and talk, which kind of sums up Haro to a T, and I really like that. Where he was Khonshu's previous avatar, and he connects to the struggle that Steven and Mark are going through. He's the fact that he's had a taste of vengeance, and that's been that addiction kind of made him unbalanced, and he's trying to rebalance those scales, and basically joining Team Amit to basically honestly, in a sense, do kind of a measured version of Thanos' philosophy here. But I'm just going to speed up the natural selection process with kind of a warped sense of justice. My magic cane here is going to decide who's good and who's not. I'm going to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Red Hood to Moon Knight's Batman.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. So yeah, I mean, horror just again continues to like that whole philosophy thing and seeing base. I assume what the deal was in episode 2. It always read to me as like he's showing what the byproducts of his work are. Look at this pleasant neighborhood I've transformed by getting rid of all the bad people. Thanks to my little magic trick.
Yep. Maybe we could see a Judd Wernick pen Moon Knight.
Has he ever? Do you know if he's ever done any Moon Knight?
Not off the top of my head.
I don't think he has.
I'm just saying maybe we could see it.
I wonder if every time I think of Judd Winnick, I never think of him doing any Marvel stuff. I wonder if Judd Winnick has done any Marvel stuff, honestly, just thinking about it now. Random thought. Anyway, refocusing.
Sorry.
So, Mr. Knight. Mr. Knight, of course, the thing I was most hyped getting into the show with is like, oh, God, because I've seen Moon Knight, I've seen 2 images. I've seen, like, the traditional Moon Knight, which, we have. It's awesome with the cape and the Batman gimmick of it all. But seeing Mr. Knight in the suit was an image. Oh man, I really want to see that. I want to see him in the suit and see what the deal is there. And we got that. And ultimately, we kind of make him more competent as he goes on here. But still,
good old fisticuffs.
Yeah, what I appreciate is it gives our guy a way of like being in the action scene, even though he's very much kind of the amateur into kind of the superheroing kind of thing right now. With Stephen Grant, he's very out of his element, but we found a way to include him in the action in a fun way where he has the strength and the abilities, but none of the skill. At least not yet.
Yeah, seeing that, and it also like gives a clue of like who's in charge at that particular point in time too.
Which also brings to a really excellent transition point here, because I love that really poignant scene that the second episode ends on, where now, because of that shift, and he then shifts to Moon Knight for the big money shot where he impales the thing and he's doing like the building jump, and Mark Spector jumped over the moon, like that whole shot. When he does that, I love that that we have this kind of sad bit where Stephen Grant's in the reflection. He says, "So this is what it feels like." Where it's like it feels cold, and he's almost having a panic attack inside the other side of the mirror. And I don't know, it's really poignant to me where he's basically like, yeah, that's how it feels, and he's taken that, again for the benefit of Stephen Grant, and now he's kind of like harshly like leaving him in there to take care of things. I don't know, it was just really when they're in Egypt in that last shot, and he's still trapped in that mirror. It was very very haunting. So yeah, and that takes us to Egypt. So that would bring us to episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3, the friendly type.
Yeah, so this episode, honestly, for me, was like the first hiccup I really had in the watching experience here, because I think the trial is BS. But outside of that, what did you think of it, Gulliver? Episode 3
is episode 3 the one that has the crypt zombies in it, or is that episode 4?
No, episode 4 is when we go to the tomb and we have like the zombie sorcerer thing.
Okay, yeah, that was the part where I was
this is the sky turning episode.
Yeah, this is the one we turned back.
This sky turning was interesting, but up until that point, it was a little bit slower.
That's the thing. I love the entry point of the episode. Just really slowed down with that trial, because for me, it's like the most irksome thing in that episode for me. And I agree with you too, Gulliver. I'm still on the fence about how that whole. I think I'm better on it now. But when I first watched it, that whole, the fighting in darkness against like the mummy creature thing. Like it was like, man, why can't we see it? But then she pulls out the flare and it gets a little cool. But still, it's like up to that point, it's like, what am I looking at? Literally. Anyway, trial. it's just my least favorite part of the series because just BS the Khonshu doesn't say, "Hey, wait a minute, he had a cane, he had a Mitz cane, teleport the cane here,
Yeah.
Exhibit A, come on." Just the fact that he doesn't like how does that not occur to anybody? You know,
And it kind of hints that one of the guys might be in on it, but that never comes to anything.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, if that's the case, because we see he's really palsy with one of the gods, like the lead, the mouthpiece of the kind of the Egyptian gods.
I think it was a Cyrus.
Is that a? I don't think. Let's think. Cyrus was the softie. Later on, I don't think that can be a Cyrus.
Maybe not a Cyrus. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't remember.
I don't think it's. Anubis would have stuck out. I don't think it's Anubis or Osiris, but it's one of the other ones. Maybe Horus. I don't know. No idea. Anywho, but yeah, so I think that was always like the sticking point with 3 for him. But also this one features Gaspar Julian, the unfortunate actor who passed away. Who played young Hannibal Lecter. He played Midnight Man. Gulliver, do you know anything about Midnight Man? Do you know what his deal was in the comic? Because I think he was like an art thief or something.
Yeah, basically he's an art thief who also experiences significant mental distress and kind of becomes obsessive about Moon Knight. There's a couple different interpretations,
as there always are
with Moon Knight. But I think he's most interesting when he becomes kind of a obsessive quality, because then you get the kind of like, I'm going to keep going to the Batman well here for the sake of ease of explaining stuff.
Okay.
He kind of gets into a space somewhere in between like Riddler and Black Mask, where he's got like a little bit of like, a criminal empire quality happening, but he's also like really hyper focused on specific ideas the way that Riddler is.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Sure. Also, one of our only we have 2 legit MCU references in the entire show, which is another thing that was really impressive about the show. That really did. Apparently, I heard this in the aftermath. I read like an article or something that said like there were a lot more references that were initially supposed to be in Moon Knight, but the creative choices made like just to leave those out. And I think it was a really good choice. I think it was good not to rest on the laurels of the. But we kept the references minimal and kind of cool. Like, okay, so this again, she knows Gaspar from Madripoor, which okay, that's cool. You're in Madripoor a little love. That makes sense. You would have found like a shady character in Madripoor. That's nice. And later on, we have the ancestral plane. So it's like, which makes sense for what we're talking about. These are the references that make sense.
Yep.
But let's see. The big thing, we had our first real legit tease at Jake Lockley in this episode. It was really cool. We're doing that. I love how we choreographed that opening fight sequence during the interrogation, and then we just we see the blackouts from on Mark Spector's side of things. Here, like, this is how it feels. Like, oh man, did I hurt those guys? Did I kill them? What happened? Did I get my answers? Only Steven knows. And then ultimately, mid fight, they're all dead, very horrifically, and most likely, thanks Jake Lockley.
Yep.
Quite terrifying.
And it's like, and then let's see. Even Mark at that point was like, I didn't do this.
Yeah, and if he's saying that, just knowing he's easily actively killed people as Moon Knight, mostly monsters and just like really, really the scum of humanity. But still, it's like, oh boy, if he doesn't, this is like just like a spur of the moment, like bloody affair. It's like, oh god.
And Steven, wouldn't do that either.
Yeah. So again, I like the bait and switch. I think we all assumed it was Khonshu, but then, oh god, Jake Lockley. You assume we're going that route, which ultimately we were. It was like, why did you thought it was Jake Lockley? But of course, Jake Lockley. Let's see. So something we kind of start this episode really carries into the next one. Just I guess the transition here is 2 things. So Stephen Grant, he gets to really live out his archaeologist fantasy here, where his obsession really pays off here as he comes up with the star map, which then Khonshu. We have like kind of the we're starting to blend kind of our 3 personalities at this point. With Khonshu, Stephen Grant, and Mark Spector, in which the 2 versions of Moon Knight, they're teaming up during the fight, which leads to impalement, in which we see here they're not working in tandem well, which to the finale they're working great in tandem now that they've worked out their issues.
Still one of the funniest moments at the which also happens in that scene.
Take it back. Take it back.
Sorry.
No, I'm saying that's what he says. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like It's like more like Steven's trying to calm everything, trying to calm this. It's like, let's talk about this. And then he gets impaled like 3 times. Like, all right, Steven, you can take it back.
Yep.
Yep.
It's like that's one of the few times he's like actually willingly gives himself up at that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's awesome.
It's like, okay, there's no reasoning with these guys. You can do it.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that. I've always attested. I wonder what your read might be on this, Gulliver. So I've always tested the episode's called the friendly type because Khonshu's kind of warming up to Steven by doing that nice thing he does at the end where he sacrifices himself, turning the sky back, even though it's going to get him sealed in a statue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's part of the mission, so I feel like, he's doing it in a nice way, but there's also selfish motivations there, which is
Oh,
kind of like
absolutely.
that's sort of the charm of Khonshu is like he's kind of nice until you think about it long enough.
Yeah, he does need Mark Spector, but by the same token, we
Yeah.
learn that he's been really lying to Mark Spector the whole time.
Yeah, he's like, and he loves, and as we'll discuss with episode 6, he loves to work with loopholes.
Yes. Okay, so episode 4, The Tomb.
Into the two, basically Tomb Raider meets Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And a lot of Mummy in there too, but yes,
Yeah.
a lot of Raiders and Mummy. So so basically we're trying to beat Haro to Amit by doing a little tomb raiding here, and I like that we address. I love that. How rarely do we do this? We address the direct aftermath up front, where it's like, well, yeah, after that event where he's lost the costume, which was a bold move, by the way. I like the bold move. Okay, so we've ditched the costume, and in this episode, we kill off our hero later.
Yeah.
It's like, and then, oh God, it's like, then we're throwing the big curveball of the insane asylum possibility, the Jeff Lemire of it all. Like, oh God, what else going to happen? So, throwing a lot of curveballs this episode, and I just like that we're addressing the aftermath. Like, yeah, after you go through like an event of losing your powers like that, it's going to take the wind out of you, which means he's in a tough spot. And Layla has to save his bacon with the flare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this episode was the weakest for me out of all
Really?
the episodes.
More than 3. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, going through your recap of 3, like, there's definitely some moments that could use more attention, but and that's my number 2 for sure. But I think all the stuff with like the weird like tomb zombies or whatever they were, just like it dragged on so long.
I agree
The
with you on
sequence
that,
with like
yes.
Layla climbing across the chasm, it was just like what is being accomplished by watching this?
I really think
The
it's
stuff
fact
with
that
the
we don't
zombies, like, okay, it's scary here. Okay, what is the storytelling reason for making it scary here? It's just they wanted to put a scary thing here, I guess.
I really think it's like, I think what really hurts is the fact that, again, it is so kind of like those actiony segments. It's just really, it is really not lit well. I don't know. I mean, I know we're in a tomb, by the same token, it's like we're not seeing the action. Honestly, what really bothers me is we don't really explain what those things are that well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, I don't know if they're I heard sorcerer there. Am I crazy? Did you hear sorcerer?
It's like they're
Maybe.
like sorcerers of their time. It's like they were described as.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
but
doesn't-
then like what was their purpose there? Like, was it something where like, if they had said like, oh, this is something that, they were placed here by, Anubis or whatever to protect this tomb, and by, we can't kill them, but by doing this thing we can do this, then like, okay, you've given a plot point, but they never did any of that. It was just like,
We need something
they're
scary.
spooky things.
We're in a tomb. Tombs have scary
They
things
come
in
out
them.
of the dark. Ooh.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it just didn't work for me, and that was a big like moment where my suspension of disbelief dropped.
Now, what did really work though is Stephen Grant, pulling his archaeological magic here, where he's like he's the Eye of Horus, which leads into Alexander the Great. Sorry, Mister the Great, as he's reaching down the gullet looking for the
Yeah.
looking for the Amit statue, which then ultimately leads to,
Sorry, Alexander.
sorry, Alexander. So that's great. And again, he and Mark is kind of getting on good terms by the reflection after he's kind of patched things up with Layla. Which, of course, the moment he does that, then it's like, you were there when my father was killed. You never told me that. And she's ticked off justifiably.
Yep.
Yeah, but he didn't kill her father.
Oh, thank goodness. Of course not. That would have put a damper on the wedding night, I'm sure. But yes, he did though. He did have a moral line there. So then we have our big twist there where we kill him off, which leads to we get into like the big we play with the fun ambiguity of Moon Knight. We're like, how sane is this guy? Where we thanks to years of retcon, as Gulliver has informed us, thanks to years of retcons, Moon Knight again, it's kind of unclear what is what, hence the ambiguity of the character. So we kind of play with like, let's take the Jeff Lemire run, let's put him in an insane asylum for a while, and have you, the audience, question: has he been crazy the whole time? Like how gutsy are we going to get with this reveal? Which ultimately, I think we walk it back a line, which is not a problem because again, we don't want it to be the biggest fear I had going to the first episode. And I was assured, basically, I put the pieces together by episode 2 fully. Like, okay, I think we're going to be in good shape here. Is that if we keep guessing from the beginning, like how much is real, how much isn't, it could get old fast if we keep things too vague. And I don't think we did that. And here, I think ultimately, when we reveal like the next episode 5, which is where everything comes together, really, is okay. So he's basically in purgatory. He's in like purgatory right now. He's like in the judgment phase right now.
The next episode shows it's basically his version of the afterlife.
Exactly, like kind of like while he's on the way to one place or another. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So all that made sense to me ultimately, especially on the rewatch. I think it really holds up. And so, okay, so this is what we're doing. This is kind of a cool way because he thinks he's crazy. He's in an insane asylum because of the idea of it all, and he's probably been in and out of these places a few times in life, for all we know. I loved visually how he represented this place because white is Moon Knight's cover, the color. The whole place is white, and that's what the uniforms are, and the fact that we have like the little Moon Knight action figure, like all the little clues, and like the Tomb Buster, VHS kind of knockoff of Raiders, tape that we have, like that's all great. I love how they shot that. Dr. Harrow, which just takes like kind of the gentle kind of pleasantries, and we've weaponized into making him the ultimate therapist with a Ned Flanders mustache.
Oh my god, that mustache looks so greasy and gross. Good lord.
And another mustache is very Ned Flanders.
Love that. But again, man, the Oscar Isaac's just credit. I mean, the performance. I'm still so melted by this, man. When he reunites with Steven, because he's in such a desperate spot right now, not knowing what's going on. He's been like half drugged during this section of the episode. And he reunites with, and I think Oscar Isaac. I forget if Oscar Isaac in real life has a twin brother or just a brother, because I think they brought him in to be his double during this scene, and it's just to do the effect. And
from what I understood, his brother was there for like a lot of the series.
Yeah, I'd assume so for like all the dialogue scenes and everything where he's going to interact with somebody. It makes sense. But yeah, it's that moment of like just the two of them reuniting and just like, I'm not crazy. Like we were shocked, yes, and just this it's glorious. And then of course the reaction to Tarwetta is just I think it's the best ending that we have in any of these episodes. She's
just like, hi.
And just Stephen Grant's girlish scream just cracks me up.
It's like I love how it's like, oh god, what is going on? And then all of a sudden it's like you're laughing at the fact that this hippo's just like, hi.
Now the coolest detail,
but what apparently happened there is like one of the main reasons that she was included is that I believe the main creator of the show, like Jeremy Slater, is like dude, when looking up like Egyptian gods and goddesses, saw an image of Tawaret and basically went to the crew, was like, okay, how do we get the hippo in this show?
We're a Disney show. We gotta have some pleasant hippos.
Yeah.
Put her in a tutu while we're at it. No. Anyway.
Yeah. Put me in a tutu and call me Hyacinth.
God. But I tell you one of the really cool details looking back on it, it's like, man, Jake Lockley wants out bad. Look at him in that sarcophagus, like moving around. Like, there's a what if I'd like to see. What if Jake Lockley went on the adventure with Mark Spector instead of Stephen Grant? Like, how would that have gone? Like, who were you? Oh, I killed everybody.
It would be pretty interesting if it'd be pretty interesting of what if like instead of taking cues from the movies, also like explore some of the events from the TV shows as well.
Well, you'd assume that's the plan, right? I mean, like I guess we'll find out what if season 2, but you know. All right, so Screaming at a Hippo brings us to what I would attest is the best episode, episode 5, Asylum.
I think it's the most grounded episode, and I think it's the most compelling as a drama.
Like full on.
My personal favorite is not this one because it's the least superhero-y. but that's a personal bias for liking superhero-y stuff.
Well, I got my own bias
It
for
is the
really
most
liking this
compelling
one
for sure.
deep down because here's the I adore the show Bates Motel, which is there's a lot of Bates Motel in this show with the whole like the
Mhm.
DID of it all. Like there's a split personality where the boy essentially is his mother. You know how it goes. It's Psycho, but it's, it's
Yeah.
essentially they really play like blackouts and stuff exactly like how they did it here, only like a little less cinematic. It was cinematic in a different way. They kept it was more of a mystery in Bates Motel, but
Mhm.
regardless. Um, the fact is, like, ultimately in Bates Motel, you reveal the reason for the other personalities. This episode had a lot of that in it, which I thought was fascinating. And so I have my own bias perhaps for liking that, but it also kind of fits a pattern. I've noticed this pattern in the Disney Plus shows where you'll notice episode 5, the penultimate episode, is traditionally the best episode of the Disney Plus Marvel shows. Think about it. WandaVision, at least for I think a lot of people, episode 8 really like that. Falcon Winter Soldier, it's where you get the big Isaiah Bradley speech, and where that
Mhm.
he trains up for the Shield and everything, and we got
Yep.
Loki, big one being Loki. As I'm saying, so far there's kind of a pattern.
Mhm.
You have the Watcher kicking fighting Infinity Ultron. Anyway,
Hmm.
so anywho, regardless, yeah. So it's just kind of an interesting pattern. Then, of course, episode 6 usually is where people are picking at the pieces. It's like, well, this didn't work, this didn't come together, and all yada yada yada. And usually something goes wrong in the last episode. That's kind of been the pattern for all the shows up to this point. Which again, this episode does bring up the question though. Movie are, are these like movies ultimately, is this like a great episode or is it like a great part of a movie to you? Like if you looked at it as like as a whole, as a film, as one giant complete story, like should it have been released like that or should it have just been like as episodes of shows? It's like the best episode of it.
Hmm.
I'm not sure I follow what you're asking.
Okay,
Could
sorry,
you
sorry
say
about
that
that.
again?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I think this episode kind of begs the question because it was so good because it does play really great by itself, like as an individual episode. When you look back on it again, the question has been like, of all these Disney Plus series, they're going for like the 6 hour movie thing. Would
Mhm.
it played better as like just like a section? Is this like a great kind of crescendo in our story, or does it play as an episode where again this pattern just keeps on persisting of the penultimate episode keeps outshining everything else? Like, would it being like a full movie, you think maybe placate that, or is just going to be the same problem?
Hmm. I don't know that it's gonna placate it
Hmm.
because I feel like it's the traditional like 3 act structure of movie. You have like your setup, your
Mm-hmm.
rising action, your climax, and then your falling action.
Yeah.
So by putting it, if they're following that structure overall, the climax is in the correct spot of the story. And like there's still some stuff that has to happen after the climax, but like all the big like twists have been revealed, all the like plot points have been introduced. Everything else beyond that point has to be payoff, or else your audience is going to feel kind of unsatisfied if you're following that pattern. So, and there's definitely a little bit of twists on that that Marvel's done, but I think as a general rule they tend to stick to that. So I
Yeah.
don't know that like separating it out differently would have had like a huge effect on it. I think it still kind of follows that flow as it is. Does that make sense?
No, I think it does. I think it's a good point. Right. So yeah. So just I'm sorry. Get back to the episode, just in terms of some of the events in this episode. So again, we this is the episode where we get all of our answers.
And this is basically the episode in which Oscar Isaac deserves his Emmy nomination.
Absolutely. I mean, I love when he's like losing his crap when he just absolutely refused. And again, this getting back to the Bates Motel that I was bringing up, where the idea that he does not want to corrupt Stephen Grant because Stephen Grant was his release. He was like the thing that protected him through his life. He was like the
Mhm.
innocence in him that kind of took over and distracted him from all the bad times. So just
Yeah.
the fact that he, like when he's like saying, "No, I won't do it," he's like slapping his head and everything, he's having a meltdown. And basically we cut to the reveal of like when the wheels came off when the mother passed and everything. Just that I don't know, it's like the intensity in that performance and just the fact that it's in Bates Motel's like sort of thing where yeah, if the personality knows why they're there and knows like the truth about the situation, then the person might cease to exist or might just what purpose does it serve anymore. He's very deliberate about, if you see this, you don't serve your point anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that was great. I mean, I'm going to this episode like the whole time in this show. I'm thinking I want to. We talked up the Moon Knight origin. I think they absolutely conned me in the best of ways here. It's like I want to see the Moon Knight origin. I want to see him like make his deal with Khonshu, and I want to see Bushman and everything. I still didn't get Bushman, but I wanted to see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
Same.
anyways, I'm hoping again if they bring him back, like if there's a season 2, if they do a movie, we're not going to see Bushman. I know that much. If we do a season 2, though, we could get Bushman.
Yeah. And Frenchie.
Yeah,
Please give me Frenchie.
Yeah, Bushman and Frenchie.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's like a shell game where you're going like, okay, I want to see the Mark Spector flashback in which I didn't think about the Stephen Grant thing, which was so much more interesting at the end of the day. I was fascinated by it.
Yeah. I'm also glad that they paid off to where it is not being like a throwaway gag at the end of episode 4. Just like, no, she's not just there as a joke. She has a serious like connection to the story. She's gonna be silly, but like she wasn't just there as a gag.
Unless
which I was appreciative of.
Let's just face it, being a goddess kind of has the right to be.
Yeah.
So, by the way, to what I love like our friendly expository hippo who has
it's a good contrast to the kind of severity of the other Egyptian deities that we've encountered.
It's being a goddess, you kind of have the right to act however you like. If you want to be a bright and bubbly, go right ahead.
I mean, again, like fundamentally, she's a fertility goddess, women and children and everything. Which, by the way, I love the thematic crux of women and children and how it relates to the Stephen Grant backstory in itself. It's really interesting. But beyond that, I just love she's all about embracing life and like a happy life, as it were. So she's got a nice demeanor about her, and also kind of fits into this other pattern the MCU has in kind of a fun way, where it's like, okay, the Marvel CG character thing. Well, we have a kind of a cool big CG character, and like a bigger than life design, but they're very mundane. It's like Corge playing Fortnite, or like she uses Egyptian scrolls as cue cards, which it cracks me up.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about Troedet. Yes, the scroll. Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. And I like that she kind of gets won over by him, and like she's like, "Okay, I'll send you up, but you both have to balance your scales first."
Yeah.
Anyway, so again, like we get once with the Stephen Grant backstory again with like the Gus the fish, which again was saying, okay, his brother drew that. So again, we've been hiding his brother this whole time, and the death of Randall is truly tragic, and we kept building up this cave image, with the water and everything. The idea his brother drowned. And the fact that Stephen Grant, in a sense, the touching idea to me in the show was that this personality was kind of him getting his brother back in a way, which I thought was really sweet. I really loved that. It really touched me in the heart. But yeah, I mean, this episode again, it really does play really well standalone. I like that we didn't check in with. I like that we didn't break away from the action. We kept you kind of guessing with we kind of went back from the therapy session to the action, which was good. But outside of that, it was no horror, no seeing what's going on topside. We kind of built it up though. Mm-hmm. Like we're on a journey, like we're in kind of like the purgatory kind of sands of the seas of Duat, as we're kind of awaiting judgment here, and we're bouncing like the creepy white hearts on the scale, the white Moon Knight hearts, which is kind of a cool visual aesthetic as well.
Yeah.
Yep. I loved how we shot the Moon Knight origin, how Khonshu was like a statue, but we kept shooting it like he was real, and then he kind of appeared during the money shot. Like, oh, that was great.
That's kind of the way it is in most of the comics depictions as well, where it's like he's a spooky statue, and then he kind of has like the eyes following you, or like the that sort of vibe to it.
Kind of vaguely Doctor Who with like those blink statues or something.
Yeah,
it is kind of interesting that he does that. Fact that his skull doesn't even have any eyes in there, so you never know exactly where he's looking.
The creepiest thing about Khonshu to me was with the design was in a really cool way. He has like these little white hairs.
Yeah, go down the neck area.
Yeah.
Very strange, but cool.
His head floats and everything. He looks like it's like a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas ad. Anyway, let's see. So the So again, for me, I've always used like the old Pixar analogy of the matchstick moment, in which like you think you know what's going to happen, and basically you build up the expectation and you subvert in a big way, and just leave your audience guessing what the heck are they going to do to fix this situation. Where we have this excellent thing where seemingly I really thought he was dead. By the way, I did not think he was going to come back. I thought Jake Lockley was going to take over as the other personality. Where Steven sacrifices himself and he gets caught in the sand and he seemingly dies, and that leads to
Mhm.
ultimately, so they don't achieve balance. They kind of they're kind of led to their fates, which is uh, you know Mark gets the reeds of heaven, of Egyptian heaven, and Steven's caught in the sand. Like they have no way back to their body now because they're not in sync. They have no way of seemingly they have no way of getting back to each other, which is kind of a cop out. They just had to turn around and say, "No, I don't want to go." That's all I had to do. But what have you? It's dramatic. It's cool. But yeah, I just love that we kind of ended it there. Like, how the heck are we going to fix this? And with one episode left,
Yeah.
that brings us to the last episode.
Gods and monsters.
Then again, another Disney Plus pattern, a suitable finale, serviceable, suitable finale with peaks, but some logic valleys, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
So, Gulliver, how do you feel about the last episode? 'Cause I know Tiki's got.
I dug it. I think it's a little bit more kind of smashy than I think a show that's done a lot of smart storytelling is maybe appropriate for. But I think there is some smart fighting with objectives rather than fighting to fight, which is one of my biggest pet peeves in superhero stuff, where they're they're trying to protect citizens. They're trying to, reduce the damage that Harrow is doing. And there's this kind of clever mirroring of the fight between Moon Knight and Harrow, and then this battle between Khonshu and Amit. Where one of them gets the advantage, and you see the god get the advantage as well. But there's also, so my comparison, the worst offender of all is like the Zack Snyder DC films, where it's just like throw person through thing, and then other person picks up that and throws through this thing.
Like, let's have Batman literally throw the kitchen sink at Superman. Let's do that. Yeah.
It's just like, what is this for?
Let's shoot it in like the worst way possible, where it looks like a Channel Awesome thing, where it's like from the anniversary special, where it's like,
yeah. I don't think this is a particularly bad case of that, but it is like a fair amount of fighting without without too many beats of resolution. So I would say some of the like fight sequence goes on a little bit long.
So
I do really dig. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I don't want to interrupt you. Go on.
Yeah, I do really dig that Layla gets to be the avatar of Taweret as well.
That was awesome.
And I was kind of confused as like, why does she have wings if she's like a hippo goddess? And I ended up reading an interview with Mohammed Diab, the director, and kind of the showrunner. He was saying that in like early drafts, when they were starting to put it together, she was going to be the avatar of Isis, who is typically depicted with wings in a lot of scenarios.
I wonder if that
also has like fertility associations. So that design kind of got left in, but because ISIS also has connotations with the terrorist group, they didn't want to have an Egyptian character who was connected in any way to anything named ISIS.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially you don't even think the ISIS thing for me is like Catwoman's cat. It's like every time ISIS gets brought up, it's like, oh, it's an international incident. But it's a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I really liked that Layla was part of that fight too, because she kind of got to step in and and do what Mark couldn't do up until that point, and kind of save his bacon a little bit. Be a reliable rock to help him make it through, and to also just like enact the rage of another deity. So that felt exciting.
I can't help but
I
wonder,
love the costume, the blades on the wings, awesome.
And seeing Taweret talk to talk to Leia. I was like,
Oh
"Hi,
yeah, through the corpses, so good.
I loved it when like the actress who plays Layla
I
was
mean,
like doing her impression of Tawara, like Layla. It's
Yeah,
adorable.
that's mainly what I was referring to.
yeah,
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 But it's like, hi, I'm Tawara. Nice to meet you.
yeah.
it's delightful. But yeah, the I wonder because I remember Khonshu was getting chatty with like one of his friends on the panel. I wonder if that friend was maybe supposed to be like. I mean, I wonder if perhaps that was supposed to be the god that got swapped that took over. Maybe that was Isis, perhaps. But then
Could
again,
be.
I don't know. It could
Yeah,
have been. You know, you imagine they run into the name thing a lot earlier in the process than just like a last
right.
minute change. So I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah, the scarab was in her family. I mean, there was kind of a scarab kind of connect with her, so I can
yep,
buy it. But
yep. Oh,
anyway,
absolutely.
yeah, 'cause, I mean, her father found like yeah, he's like her father found that scarab. And anyway, point being, um, here's the thing with the episode is I really like the actually like they're working in tandem like with all the kind of the Moon Knight accoutrements and we worked at like we're having like we brought back the Billy clubs and we're using them finally, which I really loved for the
Hmm.
Daredevil fan and me like yeah, look at them go with the Billy clubs, yeah.
Yeah, like a scream a stick kind of style.
Yeah, yeah, the screaming. Yeah, sure.
Are you sure they're
Yeah.
not William clubs?
Well, I don't know them formally, so let's just go with Billy.
Go to a Billy.
So, let's see. What was I? All right, right.
Sorry.
So here's the problem for me. Honestly, I like six. I completely agree with you, Jacob. Not so much that it's not so much. I don't think the action's long, but what bothers me is the lack of resolution. That's what bothers me. Is that maybe?
I think you mean Gulliver.
But yes, I know. I was yes.
He said,
Gulliver.
he said,
I know. I know. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Gulliver. Like as you were saying, I love the. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. I like the action. I suppose it reads that it goes on too long because we have a lack of resolution, which that's the problem. That's one of the problems I have with the episode is that we do really shorten it. It feels like I think the pacing on the show was really good up to the last episode because I was like, man, they've done really good with the pacing up to this point. I wonder if they're going to be able to pull it off like the shortest runtime of all the episodes. And ultimately, yeah, we just really shortchanged things after we had our
Like-
big fighty fight, which looked impressive. But you know,
like I said earlier during my opening, like it's like the episode could have really benefited from like even like maybe in 15 to 20 extra minutes.
yeah, but not much, but it would have helped.
Hmm.
And that's the thing. Like the to me, the biggest problems with the episode outside of like the shortchange runtime are we had the logic holes of now again, even if it's not explicitly stated, it's really it just kind of like I kept scratching my head during the finale, saying, "Wait a minute! If the Egyptian gods can fight as kaiju's, without without their avatars, just fight period, even before they get their avatars, it's like why do they need an avatar in the first place?"
I think it's something where like they can't do that all the time, and like she starts to grow. I mean, it starts to grow once Harrow starts feeding the souls.
Yeah, but why is Khonshu able to do that though?
I feel like it's because he had that kind of like resurgence of power when Mark comes back from the dead, and then like
I mean, it's
he's
entirely.
kind of in sync for the first time between Mark and Steven. So
Yeah.
to me, that's like it's kind of them working together as opposed to against each other for once.
I mean, that's the
And I think
only.
it might be just entirely possible that gods can only interact with the mortal plane if they have,
Mhm.
if even in their own physical bodies, if they have like a connection there with them.
I know that's
Yeah,
the thing.
if
They
he can
only,
turn the sky backwards, then he can get big. That's fine.
yeah, I mean,
That
that's the
doesn't
only.
bother me.
It's like the only lot, but that's the thing. So the only logic I can take from any of this is that okay. So I guess so. If you have an avatar, you're stronger, which is why they're able to do the amazing things that they are. Because when he's turning the sky back, he has an avatar. When he turns giant, he has an avatar. At that point, the only thing that kind of bothered me was like when he was fighting with when he didn't have a body against the other god.
I think we could almost say it's like a symbiotic relationship.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So I mean, but again, it's like I guess it's just because he's interacting with a god. I guess that makes sense. It's just I don't know. It still kind of bothered me that it's like at that point he's doing stuff without a body per se. It's like that. I don't know. I'll admit I've kind of softened on that one for sure, and I've also softened on another problem that I had the asylum bit. I was always like we randomly okay, so we put it we ended our story and then we cut back to the asylum for reasons, which I think we kept initially. My thought was that we kept it too ambiguous, but on the rewatch, it occurs to me, okay, I think it's more symbolic that he's proving to himself, looking within, that he's not crazy, that Haro, that all that was it was basically imagined, and he's proved that Haro was the bad guy with the bloody shoe prints.
Yeah.
That I think it's more symbolic. If it's symbolic, I think it makes more sense. Otherwise, it's just like, yeah, why did we kind of double back just to be ambiguous for reasons. But now here's a legit problem I do have, though. Okay, this one's the legit one. I still can't really reconcile. Maybe you guys could talk me out of it otherwise. I don't know. So because the runtime hurt the climax, we have the thing where Jake Lockley. I love that we use the Jake Lockley thing where he comes in, he kind of saves the day, and basically kicked the crap out of horror, and we didn't see it. That's fine. It bothers me there's a lack of follow up there, but that's kind of like hamstrung because we have the post credit scene.
Well,
I mean,
like we with basically like we cut to Jake, we cut out Jake Lockley fight. We see Haro basically in his clutches. They then perform the ceremony to trap Ahmed in there, and then he lets him go, and then that's it.
Yeah. See, the problem I have is the moral of the story here. So the moral is, like, don't kill Haro / Amit. Like, don't kill him. And I assume what we're not saying in the scene is, no, don't kill him, because earlier we had a throwaway line about, no, we can't put him in a statue, so we got to keep him in the body. So maybe that's why, no, Mark, don't kill him. We need him in the body. See, because it just, right, the way it plays is like, okay, well, Moon Knight's killed a bunch of bad guys. Why not kill the most dangerous one who actually should be killed? And he's going to say no because, no, I've had enough. Like, no, I mean, yeah, you've had enough, but after this guy, you've had enough. It's like, it's kind of, I don't know. So that's the thing. That's, to me, that's kind of like the gaping kind of logical. Why doesn't he kill him? And ultimately, he's going to kill him anyways, Jake Lockley. So what's the big deal?
And speaking of which, we don't see Layla after that either.
That's what I'm saying. So this is where, again, the short runtime really hurts important beats in our climax. We're having our moral, we're having our Jake Lockley solution here. And I kept thinking when we did our awesome full circle ending, which I really like, by the way, where you have the Man Without Love song playing, and he wakes up in his bed, and it's the two personalities, kind of like being roommates with each other. I kept thinking Layla was going to be in bed next to him.
Yeah, and we need to bring up an earlier scene to discuss the post credits scene.
Yeah.
Earlier, when Mark and Steven found a mutual understanding with one another, and then Khonshu discovered it's like they worked out a deal with Khonshu.
Yeah.
Saying that it's like, if we do this, you'll let both of us go. Like leave the two of us alone. And he's like, deal. But that doesn't take into account a potential third personality.
Which is a great loophole. And also, what's even better on the rewatch is that we reveal that he threw out Layla as a red herring. So Khonshu never had eyes on Layla. So he'd been playing Mark Spector the whole time. That's really interesting to me. That, oh, God, Jake Lockley was always in his back pocket, like the bloodthirsty guy.
Technically, he didn't lie, though. He never said anything about Layla.
You're right. Yeah, right. He just brought up Layla, but he never said he specifically wanted Layla. Yeah.
Like he had Jake Lockley in mind the whole time.
Yep.
It's like, and he said he'd leave Mark Spector and Stephen Grant alone. He never said he'd leave Jake Lockley alone.
He did consider taking over Layla when he was in a pinch, though, just for a moment. But he really wanted Mark, and he always had his backup plan with Mark with Jake Lockley. So yeah.
It's like, and that just shows like Khonshu may not be as morally ambiguous as we've led to believe.
Yeah.
Definitely on the grayer side of things.
Oh, by the way, because he gets killed off, just to kind of bring it up again, I absolutely adore the payoff with Haro, where he gets when he meets Amit, and basically, the Amit, basically we see the hypocrisy on him just kind of come full. I think the reason Haro is just such a great villain is I love how he accepts the judgment from Amit. It's like, okay, I'm unbalanced. Well, then do what you will with me, just so long as it's in service of your cause, essentially. And then he sees that, oh no, but last time one with a balanced soul, I got sealed away for thousands of years. Unbalanced will do. So it's basically like saying, she's essentially saying everything you believe in it doesn't matter. But he's just kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place at this point. I love it.
And Amit basically points out, like, no, your scales are that way because of what you're going to do for me.
Yeah, which is that's fascinating. All the writing on horror was some of the best writing in the show. I felt it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like basically the worst of what you've done. the worst of what you're going to do hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to be very flippant in regards to Harrow's attitude there. I don't know if I should say it's so dumb. All right, I'm just gonna say I'm prefacing this is dumb. His whole attitude is kind of like, I know I've been bad. You can step on me, Gator Mommy.
Like
Oh,
he did.
God.
He did say he enjoyed pain, so we know he used to. He used to be a sadist, but now he's turned into a masochist.
Yep. There you go, internet. Enjoy that
So
one.
it's ultimately, though, in seriousness, it's great to kind of see him like in as a patient in the asylum, and then ultimately just like the fact that we gave Jake Loudly a really cool update. We put him in the white limo that says Spectre on it. That was really cool.
Yep. And we saw Moon Knight, and we saw not Moon Knight. We saw Khonshu in the suit.
Yep, which is from the comics, from what I understand.
Yep.
Meet my associate.
I just love that. I'm convinced they put a guy in the suit for like. There's actually like a human guy who's like wearing like a CG head, so he's knocking on the window. It looks really good.
Like, meet my associate, Jake Lockley.
And again, he looks so good in the hat. I mean, I know here's like apparently, if I recall, I guess Gulliver, you might be able to tell me this. Doesn't Jake Lockley have a mustache in the comics?
Not that I can recall.
Really?
But...
I could have sworn he had a mustache.
Yeah, it's possible.
It would be kind of funny if he like switching personalities and spontaneously grew a mustache.
That's the thing, but I mean, here's the thing, though.
But I don't think that would work. It would probably be insulting, kind of.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, we can shift costumes willy nilly when they shift between that, but as Moon Knight, so I kind of have to wonder. Well, I mean, in theory, I could get he could grow a random mustache, it'd be really weird looking. I mean, here's the, why? Obviously, they never do because of all the Cavill jokes that would be made about them. CG mustache, I saw it right there.
Well, the thing is, the CG was used to remove the mustache, not to add a mustache.
Well, yeah, but in this case, it'd be like this is Marvel's version of that. They're gonna add the mustache, go to lengths to add a CG mustache. It'd be funnier though to me.
What?
If he, again, assuming he even has a mustache, again, in the sense I looked at like a wrong thing, like a one-time deal thing. Let's just say he does, for the sake of this ridiculous conversation. Let's just say he just carries like a fake mustache on him, so when he transforms into Jake Lockley, he puts on a fake mustache.
Yeah. Almost like you put almost like a Groucho glasses disguise.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like an adhesive mustache, but that'd be funnier.
Yeah, I know. I don't think you'd wear Groucho glasses on that.
I'm rapidly flipping through my Shadows of the Moon compendium from the mid '80s here to see if he's got a mustache.
Imagine if like it's like an outtake or something.
Okay, yeah, he's got a stick-on mustache that he's using here.
Well, there you go.
Oh, what do you mean? You were right, Dragon. It was a stick-on mustache.
Yeah. I can share my cam here for a moment if you want.
Well, it's your call, Jacob. Do we have the means to do that or what?
I mean, I think you might be able to share. Okay, let me. Hold on.
So I'll put up the panel here at the top where he's got this.
Let's see.
Yeah, I see the mustache. I see it.
Stick-on mustache.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Kind of hard to see, but
yeah,
he's got that mustache, but it's specifically a stick-on mustache.
Okay, well, even better. It kind of makes my idea. It actually gives my idea some legs. So, oh god, you could just carry around the stick-on mustache.
Yeah.
Probably not going to do that, but can you imagine?
Yeah, it had to be a very convincing mustache.
No, it doesn't really have to be. It can just be a mustache. It's like what? Just wearing a random mustache.
And people are like, "Is that mustache real?"
Well, he kills them, so they're not gonna really. That would be like their last words to me, like the whole Inigo Montoya killed my father thing. Is that a fake mustache? And like, bam, dead. Shoots him in the head with a silencer or something. Yeah, but the
I killed my father. Prepare to die.
You insulted my mustache. Prepare to die. I mean, can you imagine like an outtake where Oscar Isaac is like we see him like driving from the front view of when he's driving away, which we did not see, but he's putting on like what you think are driving glasses, but instead their Groucho glasses. But you have like the dramatic music and everything playing. It's just like he just plays it straight.
Oh god.
Okay, silliness aside, I think
that is one thing we're missing is Disney Plus Marvel bloopers.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, so I could see Mackie saying "cut the check" a few times. That'd be nice to see.
and he wants to know if he should bring out Denzel.
Yep. You want Denzel or
What was the other
Denzel or
one?
Morgan Freeman in this one?
It's like, oh, look out, Denzel's coming.
Oh,
uh,
God bless Mackie. I love that man. Wonderful.
Yeah.
oh, God.
All right. So I think that brings us to the end of our journey. I think people kind of know how we feel about it at this point. So I guess rounding it out, let me thank the folks here. Let me thank, of course, we got Tiki, who was in the comments. We have the great Connor Nielsen, and and other viewers like you who are watching this in the aftermath, I suppose.
Yep. Watching us in the future.
Yep. So Gulliver, thanks for coming on with us. Is there anything you
Yeah.
want to plug or say or anything?
If you, for whatever reason, haven't checked it out yet, but still know who I am, please come check out all the cool stuff going on hotchocolatemedia.com. We're an independent media network, make podcasts, short films, web series, all kinds of other fun, geeky stuff that's available for free. And you can always find us on social media, particularly active on Facebook. And I'm sure I'll be on again for more chats in the future.
Yeah. I mean, we have. Let's see. I know we have Miss Marvel coming up.
Yeah.
We got Miss Marvel. We have a mistake because we know one of the actors in that show. Well, we know we. Here's the thing. Unfortunately, we were never able to sit down with that guy, but we talked. We did dedicate like a whole theme month to him. We know people that know him, so like 6 degrees of separation from Saga
Nice.
Shake. We know the
Yeah.
brother in Miss Marvel. We know that
Nice.
guy. So we have let's see, there's Miss Marvel. There's
We also
there's other stuff.
we have Obi-Wan coming out soon.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
we got some Obi-Wan coming up in the meet on my birthday. We have that coming up. And yeah,
Thor in July, I'm sure.
yep, Thor in July, yep, oh for sure. And it's yeah, yep.
Well,
Okay, also I think I don't forget if the Bad Batch is still this year or not. I think it is, but anyway.
I thought it was supposed to be this year.
Well, it was supposed to be like May the 4th, but they nixed that. So
Which is a shame because that was a good. I mean, I don't think. Well, I mean, I know you mean they haven't like nixed the show entirely. But
no. I just mean they nixed the release date on it. That is, it was
it's like,
supposed to come out like on May the 4th. And they're like, hey, we're gonna have two things. We're gonna have Bad on May the 4th, and then on the 27th, we're gonna have Obi-Wan. Yeah,
it's a shame because I was really looking forward to Bad Batch. It's a good show.
yeah. I like the Bad Batch as well. So I'm gonna round this out here. That'll do it for us this week as we holster our remotes till the next installment calls for the draw. Mano y mano, just Plus and us.
I thought for sure that he would talk.